bringing new life into the world during a global pandemic. Some countries like Mexico vaccinate pregnant women against COVID-19, a relief for anxious mothers-to-be. I was desperate to get a jab. I was very nervous and excited yesterday. I hardly slept, but now I'm calm, I'm peaceful, and I feel very happy. Other countries like Brazil are worried about side effects. At least one expectant mother has died after getting vaccinated, leaving many to wonder how best to protect the next generation.
Welcome to our COVID-19 special. I'm Monica Jones in Berlin. Good to have you with us. And to those expecting a baby, congratulations. Now, I'm sure you could do without the extra worry about the pandemic. Some clear guidance would help. But authorities, including here in Germany, are still undecided.
So, Sie haben heute Ihre erste Impfung mit BioNTech-Impfstoff.
Evelyn Kern is one of the exceptions and not the norm among pregnant women in Germany. She's about to be vaccinated against COVID-19. I heard that it's now possible for pregnant women to be vaccinated, and I want to have as much protection as possible so that I don't catch the virus after all and then put myself and my child in danger. Germany has yet to issue a nationwide recommendation on inoculating pregnant women, but last month the Vaccination Commission in the eastern state of Saxony did, with mRNA vaccines such as Moderna and BioNTech Pfizer from the 20th week of pregnancy. We can see that pregnant women don't experience more side effects and that unborn children don't have a higher risk than without a vaccination. But we can also see that pregnant women with COVID-19 are 20 times more likely to die from it. The Commission used data from Israel, the UK and the US for its decision. Gynecologist Cornelia Hörsemann has been inundated with requests. In principle, we're doing the vaccinations in our free time. We just can't manage it during our consultation hours. And patients are coming not only from Leipzig and around Saxony, but from other states too, like today, for example, from North Rhine-Westphalia. Many people are no longer prepared to wait for a recommendation from Germany's National Vaccine Commission. Nadine Giese has travelled from Saxony's neighbouring state of Thuringia. For me, it's just very important that I protect myself as much as possible, and for me, that's the vaccination. Some doctors in Saxony are holding off on vaccinating pregnant women until the recommendation is approved nationwide. But the only thing hindering gynecologist Cornelia Hörsemann at the moment is the sluggish arrival of doses.
For more, I'm joined by Asma Khalil, professor at the Fetal Medicine Unit of St. George's University Hospitals in London. Good to have you with us. This is a very, very uncertain time for everyone, especially for pregnant women. Is there a reason why pregnant women should not get vaccinated?
Well, the short answer is no, there is no reason for them not to be vaccinated. And it is true that the initial COVID vaccine trials did not include pregnant women. Having said that, now we have data from the CDC on more than 100,000 pregnant women who received the COVID vaccine, and there were no safety signals or concerns, either to themselves or to their babies.
Well, that is an important point because, I mean, what do we know about the vaccine's efficacy in pregnant women? Basically, because the jab is given not just to one, but to two people.
Despite the fact we don't have the same quality of evidence as what we have on COVID vaccine in non-pregnant individuals, but the data that we have suggests that pregnant women are likely to react to the vaccine similar to non-pregnant women. It seems that they develop similar amount of antibodies, and it seems that these antibodies cross the placenta, so the baby gets some of these antibodies and probably the protection. And also these antibodies go into breast milk. So, potentially useful for the pregnant woman and the baby.
It'll be interesting to see how that develops if the baby is basically already inoculated in the mother's womb, whether it will develop some sort of immunity even at a later stage once it's been born. Any speculation on that already?
Well, the data that we have are on what we call the mRNA vaccines. These are Pfizer and Moderna. And they have this mRNA, so it's unlikely actually that the baby gets exposed to the virus or to even the mRNA. But what we know that it seems that antibodies that the mother produces seems to cross the placenta and potentially might protect the baby.
I mean, you mentioned the mRNA vaccine because the latest recommendation from the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization is that COVID-19 vaccines should be offered to women and ideally mRNA vaccines. Why is that? Why not vector vaccines or other kinds?
Well, it is true that the current advice or guidance is that to offer the mRNA vaccines to pregnant women. That's Pfizer and Moderna. And the reason behind that is that the fact that the data that we have, particularly from the CDC, were on the mRNA vaccines, the Pfizer and the Moderna, which are the two vaccines that were used or offered in the United States. And therefore, because we have safety data on these vaccines, the current guidance or recommendations is that for pregnant women to receive one of these two vaccines.
You mentioned already earlier that pregnant women were not part of any vaccine trials. And I mean, I'm not surprised to hear that. Nevertheless, we know that those trials are necessary because it does take time in order to find out if a vaccine has any side effects or if there is any long-term damage to be expected. So what's the JCVI recommendation for pregnant women right now based on?
Well, the current recommendation is that pregnant women can get the COVID vaccine. So far, we don't have any safety concerns, and there's no reason not to offer it to pregnant women. You're absolutely right that we need better quality evidence. And the trials have started. So there are a number of trials, including Pfizer vaccine in pregnant women, and a number of centers all over the world are participating and taking part in these trials. But it will take time. It will take probably a year or two before we actually get any data on the development of these babies or the children at the age of 2, for example. So, but meanwhile, we need to make sure that we protect pregnant women and offer them vaccines if they want to.
All right. And just briefly, what is the ideal week? When should a pregnant woman get vaccinated? Is there a specific window of opportunity there?
Well, according to the current guidance, there is no specific window that we tell women to get the vaccine or not to get the vaccine. Having said that, the common advice is probably wait until the 12-week ultrasound scan just to make sure that there are no serious problems with the pregnancy. And then you can get the vaccine. And it's really important that we want to make sure that this woman is protected before the latter third of the pregnancy. We call it the third trimester, because this is a time where we know that it's more risky for a pregnant woman. If she gets COVID, she's more likely to need admission to intensive care unit or become critically ill. And therefore, we want to make sure that she's protected before the latter third of the pregnancy.
Absolutely. Professor Khalil from the Fetal Medicine Unit of St. George's University Hospitals in London, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And time for more of your questions now. Over to Derek.
What are the recommendations for breastfeeding mothers who contract COVID-19?
Studies have shown that babies born to mothers infected with SARS-CoV-2 very rarely become severely ill themselves. According to the World Health Organization, even if infants do contract COVID-19, it generally takes a quite mild or asymptomatic course. But in the pandemic, babies have often been separated from their infected mothers in an attempt to prevent the child from getting it as well. For newborns, however, both breast milk and skin-to-skin contact are crucial components of healthy early development. And the evidence indicates pretty convincingly that the virus can't spread through breast milk directly. The recommendation is therefore clear. that whenever possible, mothers should continue to breastfeed their babies. But even though the risks to the infant, if it does catch COVID-19 from its mother, are quite low, they aren't zero, which is why both the WHO and the CDC also recommend taking some well-known, simple measures that can help to minimize them. The first is to practice good respiratory hygiene. So wear a medical mask when within 2 meters of your child or while breastfeeding. The second is to wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds before picking up your baby. You can also use disinfectant. Clean, frequently touched surfaces as well. If you have a severe case of the disease or have more serious complications, then you can consider pumping so your baby can be fed by a caregiver. If you do that, though, both of you should continue to take the same precautions during that procedure that you take when breastfeeding directly.
And before we leave, some good news for school kids in the Czech Republic. Starting today, they don't have to wear face masks during lessons anymore. Here they are taking it off, and with the new infection numbers going down there, the government decided to end the requirement to wear masks in classrooms. During breaks between classes, masks do remain compulsory, however, very slowly, step by step, back toward normality. Now, and that brings us to the end of this edition of COVID-19 Special. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.